You ready? All right, so we'll call the Senate Finance Committee meeting to order and
Move into exec.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We are in executive session. First bill I want to take up is Senate Bill 661. All right. What you have in front of you is a consolidated amendment that Deb had drafted for me. I believe it's the 1182 S1, right, Deb?
Correct.
Okay. Now, there's questions about an insurance model. So, I have drafted an amendment to 1491 House Bill. I have sent it over to the insurance department. And I have asked them to proofread it to make sure that it is something that will work. And I will not distribute it until I get it back from the insurance department. But the base was Representative Hunt's bill. But because the actuaries that were consulted in the drafting of that said that it did not have enough protections in there to make sure that there was no chance of insolvency, and that if you do a plan that is not accessible, then you actually need a higher level of certainty that it is going to be. So 661 stands on its own right now. I've told Representative Hunt that I will not openly oppose his bill. And I've asked him not to give me the same courtesy on 661. But there's no guarantees of what will get passed or what won't get passed in either body. So if anybody has any questions, Senator Waters?
Thank you, and I appreciate all your work, and I think that, having a Senate position and see what we can get from here is a good way to go. I did have a particular question on page 3 about the Member Equity Stabilization Fund.
Yep.
So here you define it's got to be in a bank, but I guess this would exclude credit unions and then putting it into the state fund. So is that the intent, or do you want just banks?
Senator Pearl is the one that put that language in. I have no objection to, if we could even change that to New Hampshire Financial something or other, but
Yeah, what I did is I reached out to the Bankers Association and asked them to help, because I wanted to put a little bit of parameters on how these funds are invested.
I mean, I just think, we don't have to do it today, but I think that if we're gonna, just on that little piece to make sure the credit unions and the finance.
I don't know if it excludes them.
I think
don't-
it does.
I'm not, it does?
Yeah.
Okay, we did not talk about credit unions. What I was looking for was just to make sure that the money
Yeah.
stayed in New
Yeah.
Hampshire.
But I think I think there are 3 pots we could go into. One is
Yeah.
the banks, one of the credit unions, one is the other. is the
We
state.
do have to deal with this today because it has to get off our calendar. So if we're gonna change it, we'd have to do it right now.
Well,
How
this is
about-
not the last time
how
we're gonna
about
be working on this.
which line is it in?
It's on,
Could I?
line 4 on
Could you come
page
up?
3, deposit in a bank
Chair,
defined in.
Well,
Can we have Ryan Hale just come up and talk to us for just a minute? He might be able to
Absolutely.
give us a little bit of guidance.
Remember, senators, if you need a resource and they're out there, you call them up.
Well, let me say, I
Yes, I'm
remembered
good.
this just 5 minutes before we came into the committee, Mr. Chairman, so I do appreciate that.
I have no problem in putting in, where it says bank or New Hampshire Financial Institution or something,
Well, it certainly wasn't my intention to
No.
exclude them, but I don't know that we talked about that. Ryan, maybe you can comment a little bit on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. For the record, my name is Ryan Hill, Vice President Government Relations for New Hampshire Bankers Association, and Gina Powers, who represents the credit unions, is here with me. So the way we formatted this was to reference how the treasurer handles public funds. Current statute doesn't allow credit unions to take public funds. That's why
Okay.
they're not included in there. And if you look I mean, this is just one statute, but if you look throughout all the public funds statutes, there's a lot of reference to this. But I won't speak for the credit unions, but I'll, Gina to.
Hi again, Gina Powers from Rath Young and Pignatelli on behalf of the Cooperative Credit Union Association. My understanding is that is not explicit in state law that credit unions can accept public funds, and we don't have a problem with this legislation moving forward with the amendment.
Senator Water?
Yeah, so my question kind of is, I mean, I guess I didn't conceive of these as exactly public funds in the same way. Because they're in this particular contingency fund related to a health trust, so I didn't quite see them as public funds the same way, so that's why I was raising the question.
I'd like to weigh in on that one, all right?
Yeah.
Because this is the member equity account,
Yeah,
and you can only be a member if you are city, town, whatever, okay? So they're all public people who are, because if you're not, then you can't be a part of the fund. You can't be a part of the risk pool. So, you know, it is all money that is public money.
I just wanted to make sure that there were guardrails so that these funds were put in, you know, reputable accounts and things that would be safe, because in my opinion, it's still taxpayer dollars. It's just sitting inside of this particular use.
Senator?
Thank you, and thank you for this work. I mean, I think this goes along with our joint work over the past few years to bring some of the public deposit investment pool money
Mhm.
back, well, maybe for the first time, into New Hampshire's banks,
Repatriation
so
of New
that
Hampshire
they
money.
can lend out to businesses and
Yes.
individuals. So I think this is really important to make sure that it's that we are putting taxpayer money. My only question is, does this guarantee, and I should know 6/8, but I don't, that this is a New Hampshire, a bank with a New Hampshire presence?
Yes, you're correct. The way 6/8 deals with the deposits is you have to be nationally chartered bank, state chartered bank, or a bank chartered outside the state of New Hampshire with a presence here, and that your state that the state the bank's chartered in has reciprocity.
Thank
And
you.
the idea behind that is to make sure the money stays here in New Hampshire, is supporting the local communities.
I think that's really important.
yeah, and I had asked earlier, just to follow up on, I had mentioned the PDIF.
Mhm.
Would they be, could they not put it in that?
So the way this is written is to just specifically be for bank deposits. They're insured, fully insured, collateralized, and it addresses liquidity. Where, you know, the pool, isn't insured, while it's still probably it's still a safe investment. This has liquidity and safety built in.
Thank you, and thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, any questions on that issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to deviate from normal practices, and is there anybody in the audience?
They're all staying in the foxholes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. So in fact, I'm going to move over to PE. I'll second. And I'm also going to move amendment 2026-1182S.
Did you say Senate Bill 448?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
We're gonna do it in America.
got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move to pass.
Okay, on 448, in the last session, I had that Senator Lang and Senator Ennis moved, and we voted 7-0 on Amendment 0679S. And then we decided to hold after that. Does anybody not agree with where we are? And we had an amendment 0955F, which was proposed but never submitted. And I was told that that has been withdrawn. Okay? So, where we are right now is we would be voting on an ought to pass as amended motion, unless there is someone else that has a motion they want to bring forward.
So, Mr. Chair, again, I think when we adopted the last amendment, it took away the financial aspects of this bill and made it now just a definition change of what constitutes a veteran and does it in the appropriate chapters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We're getting it. 498.
I move ought to pass on 498.
Senator Birdsall moves ought to pass. Senator Rosenwald seconds that.
So
Any discussion?
I just want to let you know, this is basically revenue neutral. However, there is continuing discussion between the governor's office, the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Insurance, and our stakeholders. And they're making some progress, and I'd like to try and get it into the House and try and move the House to deal with it towards the end of the session. It looks like the stakeholders do have someone to come in and help them work on working with Anthem, a consultant. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I want to keep that going. So, and in order to get it the full length that we can to work on it would be to get it to the House and have them schedule it towards the end of session.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion. I'm just keeping score.
This amendment takes the cost out of the bill by removing the removal of the resource limit for the Medicare Savings Program. So that would stay in place. And what is left in the bill is the clarity that we will continue to automatically enroll low-income seniors into the low-income Medicare Part D subsidy program, which is paid for with 100% federal funds.
LBA, concur?
Yes.
Further discussion? All right, first vote is on Amendment 1063S. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Now we're voting on the bill as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Do I have any objection to consent?
Move consent.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Senator Rosenwald, you get that one. All right. 557. I have an ought to pass motion from Senator Lang, seconded by Senator Pearl.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer amendment 1203S and speak to the amendment. Second.
Okay. Senator Lang, Senator Pearl again. Okay. We'll be in recess for a couple of minutes.
Wow.
Do you want to check it in the office before we start again, or? All right. We could recite Mary Had a Little Lamb.
You can decide.
Well, hey,
Well, I will be happy to recite that in a few months.
hello, 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 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll come back out of recess, and we're on Senate Bill 557. We have an on pass motion, and we have an amendment 1203S, which has also been presented. And now, is there any further comment?
So, Mr. Chair, the amendment that we have before us, there was some concerns about medical research and the use of this product. And so this bill the amendment creates an exemption for medical research.
Further comments? Senator?
Thank you. So I'm not aware of any approved human use of this product. And so I'm wondering about why it's Schedule 2 instead of Schedule 1, but that was a policy decision.
I believe that we heard testimony in the Senate the other day that there were low dose usages that would help people who were trying to get off of higher class drugs. But the problem is that what I've heard in other people is that the withdrawal from this is similar to the withdrawal of those other drugs, and that the reason for this, from what I was told on the phone this morning by the author, is that there are researchers up at Dartmouth that want to study it, and the language that we had would make that much more difficult, if not impossible. So that's what I was told this morning. Do you have any further comments, Senator?
I don't have an issue with the amendment, but the underlying bill. I still have questions.
Okay. We're voting on the amendment 1203S. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And now the bill as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Was that one or two I heard? Two? Okay. It's up to them. Is there an objection to consent? All those in favor of consent say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Purr? Senator Lang made the motion?
I'll take it.
I was just gonna take it out myself, but if you want it, you got it. All right. I can't give any bills to this lady to my right, so so she's the only safe one here. All right, Senate Bill 586.
Move on, yes.
Senator Lang moves on pass and Birdsell seconds.
Is this gonna be
Yep.
So this bill's a response to Claremont and the fact that there were no penalties or outcomes relative to if a school district doesn't file a financial audit as required by law, but there was nothing in there that says, what do we do if they don't? This bill seeks to put put a penalty in, make a requirement that they submit it, that the commissioner acknowledge they've gotten it and it's got no problems. And then if that's the case, there's no issue. It gives a 1-year window for corrections. So if there's an audit filed and there is a problem with the audit, that they're still as long as they're working with the Department of Education, they can still get their funding that's necessary. But if they just walk away, they've been notified that they're a problem and they don't do anything to correct it and they don't do anything else, then it puts at risk their school funding in the following year.
Okay, when you look at the fiscal note, it talks about over $500,000. Talking with LBA, this does not authorize the positions that would make up that money, okay? And that if it is passed the way it is, the department, any expenses they would have to take out of their existing budget. So it doesn't spend any money. I want to open that part of this up for discussion because a lot of times we would table this, but because of the Claremont situation, et cetera, it is felt by several that it's important enough to go forward and that the money needs to, or the departments, if they need to do something with this, they need to do it out of their existing budget. Comments? Oop. Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I really do believe that this needs to go forward because we've learned since the Claremont issue that other districts have come forward with the same type of fiscal problem. Whether it's with the school lunch program or something else, we need to start holding these districts accountable for the money that run through their departments. I mean, I also sit on education finance, and we're dealing with this issue, not necessarily with requiring the audits, but we're gonna be having, I think, a really good discussion on the floor about, what's really been going on. So I think this is part and parcel of that discussion. I know we are financially tight, but I do think that, having these audits, I think, is very instrumental. It will also stop a problem. If they're not getting these audits, rather than just wait and let what is a problem grow and grow and grow till it comes to our attention, they're going to be able to see that there is a problem and address that problem right away. So for those reasons, Mr. Chairman, I do suggest that we pass this. Thank you.
Senator Waters?
Yeah, I agree with Senator Carson. The one question I had, and maybe LBA can address this, is that it says preceding fiscal year. So if we have a effective date of July 1st, 2026, does this mean the audit would be on that previous fiscal year, 25, 26, or the 26 fiscal year? Or would it be, the assumption be that it would be for the fiscal year that, ends in July 27? Because that would affect the cost of the auditing. When does it start?
So again,
Senator Lang.
this is an issue, Senator Perkins Cook and I worked on, this is an agreed upon amendment that we have the bill as amended between us. If you look at line 12 in the bill, it says the audit or financial report for the last completed fiscal year shall be submitted within 6 months of the finishing of the fiscal year. So if their fiscal year, if this was to become law and their fiscal year ended June 31st, within 6 months of June 31st, they would have to have the audit submitted to the department. So by December, they would have to have that audit completed and submitted.
So we're talking January then, of
Correct.
27.
Right.
And that's.
So the likelihood of this being signed by the governor before July the 1st
Right.
is nebulous at best. So, and in fact, it won't become law until she does sign it. So
And then,
I'll leave you to your own interpretation of what that means.
which means the next completed fiscal year would be those on a calendar year of December 31st. Before that's when the fiscal year would end. They'd have 6 months from that date to be able to submit their report.
That helps to know there'd be some time to figure out how to pay for this. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
so the motion is ought to pass. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Second?
Do I have any objection to consent? All those in favor of consent say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Mr. Chair,
And
I'd like to take that one out.
you want to take that one
Yes,
out?
please.
You mean, you and
I'll
Senator Burl
volunteer.
aren't going to fight?
I'll volunteer for this one. I'll take the bullet.
All right. Well, there you are. I've been overruled. All right. 6:14. 6:14, we have a new fiscal note. Huh? If that's the way you'd like to term it. So, I think that a motion is in order.
Move. Ought to pass.
Second?
Senator Rosenwald and Senator Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Is there an objection to consent? All those in favor of consent say aye.
Aye.
And Senator Rosenwald, you get that one.
Okay.
Because I think I'm going to give Senator Waters the next one. He hasn't gotten one yet. All right. We have a new fiscal note on the next one. 6:15.
Is it 0?
Yep.
Move on pass.
Second.
Senator Waters, did you move out of pass? Senator Waters? Senator Lang seconded. All right. Any discussion on that one? Okay. All those in favor of ought to pass say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, all those in favor of consent say aye. Aye. And Senator Waters. All right, 6:25.
I move on to pass.
Second.
Senator Birdsell and Senator Lang are ought to pass.
And I have an amendment for it.
Okay. Senator,
I'll move amendment 1197S. And basically what this does, this is the bill that I had put in for an evidentiary hearing on individuals, families who were victims of, a member was victim of a homicide, but they got no recourse. So what I've done, there were some issues with the bill based on the constitutionality of it. So what I've done is put a study committee together of 2 senators, 3 reps, to study, first of all, the review of some of the relevant laws that the other states have passed, because there are a number of states that have passed it. They're going to determine whether New Hampshire Constitution would allow for those relevant laws to be implemented in New Hampshire, and review the current process for keeping family members updated on issues with regards to the investigation, and investigate whether there are any systemic problems with the investigatory process. Because I know in our case, in a family in Derry, even the state police and the AG's office came in and said it was an extremely flawed investigation. So, and then finally investigate the feasibility of extending the statute of limitations for some of these issues. So that's what the study committee will be doing. And
Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you for this, thank you, Chairman, thank you for this, Senator Rishardi. It's important. I did wonder on line line 8,
I'm sorry?
whether
Line 8.
line
Oh,
8
8.
Is
Line
that of
8.
the amendment or of the
of the
bill?
amendment.
Yep.
Do you want to add a word after options, to study options for family what? Options for information or?
What word would you like to see
I
there,
mean,
Senator?
the point seems to be information, right? So I think, as otherwise the options become, it's so vague, then the duties then become even more vague. So I just would think options, study options for family, for information
For
for
information
family members.
for family.
members.
Yeah.
So insert after for information for.
Sure. You got that, Deb?
It's actually OBA.
Oh, LBA. Sorry.
Would we add that same language on line 18?
Yes. The committee shall study options, study information options for family members. Okay.
Okay. LBA? Ms. Martone, everybody understand what we're asking for the amendment? Committee's all set? All right, so we'll be voting on Amendment 1197S as modified here by the committee. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Now we'll go back to the bill as amended. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And do I have an objection to consent?
Nope.
Seeing none, all those in favor of consent say aye.
Aye.
And
Take it out.
Senator Birdsell is to take it out. 6:45. Senator Lang moves on to pass. Senator Rosenwald seconds. Okay. Yes, you may.
So, as I mentioned, I'm hoping we'll pass and table this understanding that present price tag of $10 million of surplus, potential surplus dollars. And we're not sure where that's gonna be yet, so I like the idea of what we're doing here. I am a little concerned about the money. And so like all of our bills that we have in that status, I'm gonna ask that we pass this and then later table it.
Further discussion? Senator Roseman?
Thank you. I would agree with that. I think there's some inconsistencies in the bill as amended, having to do with what period of time is measured and DRA doesn't necessarily stipulate that all of these revenues are coming in above plan.
Well,
Mr. Chair, again, we don't know on timing wise within the bill. The issue is, again, does this happen in April 1st, in which case we haven't figured out what the surpluses are for the year, so we would have no idea of knowing when the revenue, how much revenue should be pulled. It's not defined in here, but the concepts of the bill are reasonable, but just that there are some undefined issues, and I think we should pass as a policy and table it.
all right. So status would be, consensus of the committee seems to be that to pass and table it. If there is inconsistency, certainly somebody can pull it. If it is, it won't go on consent because it's a pass and table, so that a floor amendment could be offered before it's tabled. Okay?
If I may, those inconsistencies wouldn't change the price tag.
Amen. Okay, we are voting on ought to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And who wants to take this one? Senator Birdsall wants it. I was just gonna go look and see who was on the list as co-sponsors and stuff. Senator Rosenwald is a co-sponsor. Before I accept your taking it, Senator Rosenwald, you're a co-sponsor? All right, Senator Birdsall gets it.
You got this off scot-free, I will say.
Did you?
Oh, we're not done.
Did you get off scot-free? Senate Bill 541.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a 2-minute recess?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Committee's in recess for 2 minutes.
So, let me come over. All right, here we go. Yeah.
I call the Senate Finance Committee out of recess, and the bill that we're working on now is Senate Bill 541. Senator Lang.
Move ought to pass.
We have Senator Lang moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator Waters, which is that who I saw, heard? Okay. And do I have another motion?
You do. I move amendment number 0501S, and I speak to my amendment.
0501S. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you may recall, this is a large southern tiered project for water. There was a $19.5 million appropriation that was around this. And the question was, how do we come up with money? And so in talking with all the parties, including DES, which helped bring me this language, we want to make up the money in three ways. First, $5 million would come from adding to capital bonding. And I've spoken to the chairs of capital bonding. They're amendable to that, both the House and the Senate. So we'd add $5 million to the end of year bond that we do. The second one was what Senator Waters and I were just talking out in the hallway from, was the second $5 million. Originally in this amendment, I have it come from the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund. I'm going to ask that if we pass this amendment, to amend that a little further to what Senator Waters wanted to do and take it from a different source. And then the last $10 million is going to come from the Manchester water system themselves. In conversation with them, they feel that they can bond and make up the money necessary for the bond, the revenue needed by the new $3 million gallons a day that they'll be selling to all the other municipalities. And they'll be able to make up the money for the bond through the money they were already originally getting for that money. So anyway, that's what my amendment does. It breaks up into three funding sources. $5 million from capital bond, $5 million from a drinking water fund, and then $10 million through the bonding over in Manchester.
Senator Waters.
Yeah, it's good. We've got to get this project done. I appreciate the good work. Wouldn't you say, Senator Lang, that what we ought to do with your amendment is to strike that section 2, starting on line 29, because we're going to replace that with my amendment. So because they are different sections of statute, I think we need to strike yours.
I was just going to pass mine, then pass yours, and yours would overwrite mine.
But
It's the same section, section 2.
All right. Let's do it this way.
Yeah.
Okay? Is that LBA will be the one that's writing these amendments, okay? It is the committee's, by passing it the way that we're looking at, passing the one amendment and then passing the other amendment, that the line 25, I think you said, would be replaced by the language in Senator Waters' bill. Okay? Does everyone understand that that's the intent of the committee if we vote it that way?
Okay.
Senator?
Thank you. The total amounts seem to be different in the two amendments. Senator Lang says basically $40 million, and Senator Waters is $50 million.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So again, it's not this entire accumulation of numbers. We're just adding in the money, the $10 million at the bottom of phase 2, number 6. All the rest is current law, a current bill and act. I didn't want to change it, so we're just adding that line.
It's 10 million.
Yeah.
And that 50 is current statute.
Yeah.
That's from the original establishment of that bond fund, or that fund.
So I
So-
promise everybody, at the end, it's a $20 million appropriation by those three funding sources when we're all done.
LBA, you commented on that before to me, that there was the original $50 million and that there's funds that are still in that fund. If you'd repeat that for the committee, I'd appreciate it.
So the amendment that Senator Waters has would amend an appropriation from 2020, which was a $50 million appropriation for PFAS. The Department of Environmental Services currently has $6.2 million still available to fund projects with, and they have another couple $1 million that's reserved for administrative purposes to make sure that they can track the grants and loans that they might do from this fund. I believe Senator Waters' amendment would direct $4 million of that money to be used for the Phase 2B project down in the southern part of the state.
And we've agreed, we're gonna, once we go to get his amendment, we're gonna amend it to 5 and pass it with 5.
Yeah, I didn't want to get ahead of you guys, so I didn't want to say that yet.
And we'll deal with the consequences of that for administrative costs, I guess, later, but,
There's
yeah.
no general funds.
No general fund dollars.
Okay, so what's in front of us right now is Amendment 0501S. Does everybody know what they're voting on? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And
Senator Waters, you want to deal with your amendment?
Senator Waters, do you
I'll
want to move your
move,
amendment?
amendment 1200S. And I'll speak to it.
Senator Waters moves 1200S. And a second by Senator Lang.
So, you know, a lot of conversation is going on in a lot of places about this project, and there's some, that'll be occurring tomorrow in Manchester about bonding and so on and so forth. I think the commitment is there to get this done, just try to find the appropriate pots of money. And Commissioner Scott had preferred the 4 million because of the aforementioned need for some administrative costs, but I think that with what we've decided to do to bump this up to 5, so I would change on line 24 to 5. And then Commissioner Scott needed just a small a change here in wording. It's in the same section of statutes, so we thought this would be a convenient vehicle for that. So you see the bold on line 11 for the standards that we're using to make sure we're safe from PFAS, and he wants that that phrasing there. So that's not exactly housekeeping, but this is a convenient way for him to do it rather than having to wait till it get over to the House. So there it is, Mr. Chairman.
Further-
Commissioner? Certain
Sorry,
comment.
sorry, I just realized your amendment's drafted as a replace all. So we need to amend it further.
We will
Line 7 is,
Okay.
we
it-
will
it-
strike out the part that says replace all, and LBA, who will be drafting the committee amendment, understands what our intent is.
Right, at this point, we understand if this amendment's adopted,
Right.
it would overwrite section 2 of amendment 0501S.
They are now.
And that
including,
section one would
including that
remain the
one
same.
definition.
Because the-
Right, so it
Right, so we would take the Senator Waters' amendment, 1 and 2,
Talk after.
and that would become 2 and 3 in the amendment based on
But this is
0501S.
what we need to do.
that is the intent.
All right,
The,
so that becomes a committee amendment to 1200S. Does everyone understand? Senator Rosenwald?
Thank you. I have a question for Senator Waters about the use of "or" on line 11. Right now, the standards for the federal standards and state standards are the same. But what if they deviate?
Thanks.
Which would take precedent?
Thanks for the question. What we, on this standard in particular, there's been a lot of leapfrogging.
Mhm.
The feds were at a certain level. We have the authority to set a state level. You may recall, we went down to 12 parts per trillion, and it was a darn good thing that we did. Then the feds caught up with us, and then they went down to 4. And so we're working to do the 4. But now the published intention from the EPA is to get rid of PFAS standards. And so if that is, and that is in process, and if that is the case, you see the "or" here lets us have the capacity to have our state standard.
I guess my question, if I could, is why mention the federal standard at all?
You know, I'm sorry, I would rather have you talk to Bob Scott about it. This go to the House.
We have a resource
Yeah,
from DES
let's
right
have a
here.
resource, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Head with the Department of Environmental Services Legal Unit. Just to put a little bit more into context, EPA has indicated they are going to continue to push forward with a PFAS standard for PFOS and PFOA at the 4. They do plan, although have not yet, They do plan on taking out the other PFAS substances. But right now, although they've been challenged, the EPA standards are still in effect at the numbers that are lower than DES's standards currently. And moving forward, they do intend, at least they've stated their intention to keep a standard for PFOA and PFOS.
Senator Lang.
So, Mr. Chair, now I'm a little concerned because we're changing policy on environmental policy that hasn't gone through a policy committee. I thought that definition change was necessary in order to do the second half of this bill, but the second half of this amendment, but it sounds like it's a standalone in and of itself. I guess that's my question for Senator Waters.
All right,
Is this
so-
a policy change different than anything we have to do with drinking water for the purposes of funding this Southern Tier project? It seems like this should be a standalone.
No, it's just that because we're taking it from that PFAS fund. Look, if you would rather that the commissioner take this to the House, let's just take this part of it out.
Rich, section 1.
Yes.
9 through, I'm worried about 9 through 12 seem no longer to be relative to the fund. It's just a change in definition,
Yeah.
which is a pretty dramatic change that hasn't gone to the policy committee.
Maybe less dramatic than thought, but I think it needs to be more fully explained, and I think it's probably better at this point if the commissioner takes this to the House. So we can remove that from the amendment.
So the committee amendment will strike lines 9 through 12.
Committee amendment on 1200S will strike 9 through 12, and it also will change the replacement
Okay.
section.
Yep.
Any further discussion? LBA, do you understand?
So on Amendment 1200S, you're going to strike out lines 9 through 12, and on line 20, you're going to change it from 4 to 5 million.
Correct.
Yep.
And we're gonna take out line 7.
Yeah, you're also gonna deal with line 7 because it's not.
It-
a replacement all.
Understood. We're going to, once you're done with all the amendments, we'll string together a new amendment for you that will be a replace all to the bill, the underlying bill.
Okay. Any further questions? We're voting on Amendment 1200S as amended by the committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And we're voting on the bill as amended by both the amendments. Okay?
Senator Gray. I didn't
ma'am.
know if you wanted to take up Senator Ennis's amendment, the 2026-0008. Yes.
Do I need that?
This is the one that was discussed about the Pillsbury Lake Village. It was the cleanup language for HB2.
Okay. I will move Senator Ennis's amendment 008S. Do I have a second?
Second.
Senator Lang, seconds. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
She wants to-
So, thank you.
I was
This-
looking down, I apologize.
That's okay. Again, this is $325,000 for something like 20 homeowners in Pillsbury Lake Village District who took out a loan that they didn't want to pay. And I'm concerned about that. Because there are many worthy projects that we're passing and tabling for this kind of money.
And I'm just
Senator Waters.
reminding that we rejected this, I believe, twice in finance last year. And I mean, if there's $500,000 that's going to magically appear.
I just want to provide some clarification to the committee. This appropriation was already put in HB2 last year. So this language is the same minus the loan information. The appropriation has already been made to DES. It's just cleanup language, I believe, from Senator Ennis. If you look, it's just the strikeout sections where it removes the word loans. And then in 14, so it's language, it's a change of language, but the dollars have already been appropriated to DES for this project funding, and it was in HB2 last year.
Sorry. But it was a loan.
It was a loan and now it's a grant
Now it's a grant.
for
That's what
20
we rejected
people.
last year. We rejected a grant last year, and that's why we did the loan.
Well, it was, if I may, again, from what I understand, this language is all put in appropriation, the money's all there, but the language that was put in HB2 to support this was incorrect. And this is a correction of the language that was in HB2, so it can be expended appropriately.
Maybe, I may be misremembering, so. it's-
Why do we think it was incorrect?
I'm just going by what Senator Innes told me. The language was not, they needed to correct it.
I think he worked it pretty hard last year.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Head again, from DES. The bill is passed in HB2. When it was first drafted, the village district had a loan for $65,000 that they were applying for. That ultimately was withdrawn, so the $65,000, as it was expressed in House Bill 2, could only be used to repay a loan that was not taken out. So the amended language would allow the money to be dispersed based upon an agreed upon project, rather than making them take out a loan and then immediately reimburse it through the House Bill 2 language.
I was misremembering, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'm gonna oppose this amendment because I think there are lots of places we could spend this kind of money rather than for 20 people who just don't want to pay the cost of their public water system.
LBA, you want to speak?
I'm all set with this amendment. I wanted to go back to 501S before you guys took the full vote on all the amendments.
All right.
So I'll wait till you're done with 008S.
And
So,
Mr. Chair, I'm assuming.
oh, well, just a minute. 0008S does the LBA thinks that it does what?
What I believe it does is it does exactly what Mr. Head said, is that before it was, the anticipated $325,000 was going to be a loan for the community. Some parts of that was a loan, but there's a piece that they could pay cash for and not have to take a loan out. But based on the language, they would have to take a loan and then get reimbursed for that. So it's just to try to avoid that process of getting a loan and then getting reimbursed immediately. So I don't, the money was appropriated in House Bill 2. The money's going through DES right now. They've already paid some parts of this project. It's just clarifying Roman 3 on the amendment, that they don't have to take a loan out.
Okay, is there anybody that has any other questions?
I just want to make sure we're also going to do it lines 1 and 2 and know that LBA will integrate this third amendment into the bill accordingly and not.
We will. We'll string all the amendments that you adopt with all the changes. That's why I need to go back to 501S before you guys vote on it.
Okay. All right, so we're voting on the Ennis Amendment, 0008S. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And the ayes have it. 5-1. LBA. Chris?
Yep. So on Amendment 0501S, the intention is to strike out Section 2 starting on page 29, but leaving Section 1 as is, correct?
Yes.
In order to do that, I need to make a couple of technical changes. So you're amending the capital budget from last year. The amendment that you have before you doesn't fix the totals at the end of Section 1 of House Bill 25, nor does it fix the totals in Section 7. So I would need to include that here in
Move
this
to
amendment.
allow LBA to make technical changes
Say it.
necessary to amend the budget. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, now, we're back to the bill as amended, and you can probably do a couple more. All right, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Waters, might as well have you do this one too. Senator Lang, I'm sure
Oh, I,
will assess issue. Is there any objection to consent? All those in favor of consent say aye. Aye. All those opposed say yes. No, and it's on consent, and Senator Waters has it. All right. We're not doing any House bills today because I'm told that the calendar for next Thursday, a week from now, is so full that you're not going to want to do any House bills today and get them on there. So is there anything else that we need to take up in executive session? We have a motion to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're out of executive session. Our business of the day being complete, we are adjourned.